Mr. Squidward. Welcome to the night shift.
Welcome, everyone, to the night shift. I'm Lauro Antonio with Isaiah Leong here. Tonight, we are going to be recapping the Lakers' thrilling overtime win over the New York Knicks. And Isaiah, how are you doing? Like we talked off air, it was not a pretty win for the Lakers tonight, but a win is a win. And you know what? I can't wait for us to get this off our chest, that the Lakers need to be playing better than they are right now.
Well, you're right, Lauro. I'm doing great. First of all, can't wait to do this show tonight because I got a lot of stuff I got to get off my chest. About this game, like you said, it wasn't perfect. It obviously wasn't perfect. There was a lot of stuff that the Lakers definitely need to fix, especially the thing that happened, like what happened in the end of regulation when they had a 9-point lead with like a minute 40 left and they just completely blew it. That's totally unacceptable. That can never happen, especially when you're a team trying to compete for an NBA championship. But when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, I think that the fact that they're finding ways to win ball games is a good sign, because before you would just see this team go down by a lot and you just never saw the fight. You never saw the passion. You never saw the competitive spirit that I've been talking about wanting to see from the Lakers this entire season. And now I feel like ever since AD's come back, ever since LeBron's come back from his injury, you've seen that from the Lakers. You've seen this team claw. You've seen this team fight. You've seen this team just don't quit. And that's a good sign. That's a good first step that they're showing that they actually want it. Now it's just about playing better, especially to begin the games. You're trying to compete for a championship here. Like, we're not trying to compete for, we're not trying to compete for like a mediocre record. We're trying to compete for a championship. We're trying to get one of the best records in the Western Conference and in the NBA in general. So you can't be going down big time. You can't be going down 18 or 19 or 20, especially if you play teams like the Golden State Warriors, if you play teams like the Phoenix Suns or the Utah Jazz or the Denver Nuggets or even the Milwaukee Bucks or the Brooklyn Nets. If you went down by 20 or 25 against those teams, you're basically screwed. This was the New York Knicks that you played, so you could get away with it. But against better teams, you got to bring it from the start. And then, like I said earlier about the ending, that was totally unacceptable. You have a 9-point lead with 141 left. ESPN was giving the Lakers like a 99.8% chance to win that game. You got to close the deal out on like the Knicks, because this is the New York Knicks. They're not that good of a team, and you can't be allowing R.J. Barrett to freaking look like Kevin Durant out there on the basketball court and Julius Randle looking like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar out there tonight. So a lot of stuff the Lakers need to fix, but I was pleased with what I saw on the basketball court. It was important to get this win tonight. I thought that Anthony Davis was tremendous. LeBron, especially late in the game, was tremendous. Austin Reeves was good, both on defense and also hustling. Malik Monk, he stepped up with 27 points. But I think the biggest story of this game, it wasn't about Russ, LeBron, AD, Monk, all those guys, or even Reeves. It was about Trevor Ariza. This was Trevor Ariza's coming out party. He was great on offense. He was great on defense. And if he can play like this consistently, the Lakers are going to go a long way, and it's going to be great for the Lakers.
It's going to be great for the Lakers. And my thoughts on this game is that first half was not so good, Isaiah, but in the second half, they turned on the Jets. They had an opportunity in the fourth quarter to seal the game, but they allowed a clutch three-pointer by R.J. Barrett, which was kind of uncharacteristic. But, I think that this is something that I think the Lakers need to work on and to address at the trade deadline. They might not use the trade market to get somebody. They're waiting for the buyout market.
Yeah, I think that the trade deadline, like I said last night, I don't really expect the Lakers to do much at the trade deadline, just because they just don't have like that many pieces. So I think what the Lakers need to do is focus on the buyout market. I think Paul Millsap might be available. You have other guys that could be available. via the buyout market. But I just think the Lakers, they have the talent. I think they just need to what they need to do is just stay healthy, and they just need to focus on on getting better on especially defense. Forget the offense. We know you're going to be able to score because you have so many Hall of Famers on your basketball team, but it's about defense. And if these guys can buy into Frank Vogel's defense, I think it would be great for the Lakers.
Yes, absolutely. But anyways, now moving on to a bit of some football here around the news around the world. The Indianapolis Colts however, Isaiah hired Gus Bradley to be their defensive coordinator to replace Matt Eberflus. And even though that I've heard that the players on the Indianapolis Colts were not too happy about Matt Eberflus leaving, they will love Gus Bradley.
I agree, man. Gus Bradley might be the hire of the cycle when it comes to the assistant coaches. I love this hire by the coach. Gus Bradley. He's a ball of energy. I mean, this guy is amazing. He's like always jumping around. He's kind of like Kirby Smart in a way. He's just so energetic, and he's a guy that is so fiery, so intense. It's kind of what you want to see when it comes to every coach in the NFL. So I like the hire by Indianapolis. Gus Bradley's also a great defensive mind. He's going to have a lot of talent to work with there with, DeForest Buckner and Darius Leonard and those guys. So it's a great hire by the Indianapolis Colts. I love it for the Colts. But I think the Colts, their issues are not on defense. Their defense was great or good last year. It wasn't great, but it was good enough to win. But their issues are the offense. It's, quarterback play. Carson Wentz has shown that he's not the answer for the Indianapolis Colts. So the Colts this offseason, they need to go out and they need to find a better quarterback than Carson Wentz. Like, you need to try to unload Wentz's contract. I don't know if you could or not. We'll see. But if you can unload Wentz, you got to try to get a better option because I just don't think that Wentz – I like Wentz. I really do. But I think Wentz – after his injury, he's just never been the same. He's kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo. He's kind of too scared to move around in the pocket. He's too scared to run now, because he keeps thinking about his knee. So I feel bad for the guy. I really do. But I just think that, the injury has really affected him, especially his mobility, because before you saw him run a lot, but now you just don't see him running anymore. And I think with him not being able to run, with him not being able to move in the pocket, Carson Wentz looks like a freaking statue out there, and that's just not who he is.
That's not who he is, Isaiah. But what the funny part about Gus Bradley being the defensive coordinator for the Colts, he gets to face the Jags twice a year, whom he coached for, and you know that he did everything he could to make the Jags a competitive football team, but it did not work out for him there.
Yeah, it didn't work out because he's kind of like what's it called? Wade Phillips. He's a great defensive coordinator, but he's not head coaching material. So I think that he's perfect as a DC for the Colts. But I want to get to Brandon Christie's question: where would Wentz go if the Colts do let him go? Honestly, I don't know because who's willing to? I don't think anybody's going to trade for him because he's got a massive contract. Plus, if someone does trade for him, they're going to have to eat a lot of money. There's not really many teams out there right now that would probably prefer Carson Wentz as a starting quarterback. They probably would get him only as like a consolation prize if they miss out on like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and all those top names out there. So we'll see. But I would say this. For me, I think where Carson Wentz would go, how about Denver if they miss out on Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson? Because Nathaniel Hackett, he likes to work with quarterbacks I feel like he likes to work with veteran quarterbacks because when you look at his history, he's never really had to develop a quarterback. So I don't think Denver would trade for a quarterback. If Denver misses out on Rodgers, if they miss out on Russell Wilson, you could see Wentz end up there because Wentz is a West Coast offense style of quarterback that fits his that system fits him. So, and Nathaniel Hackett's going to run a run heavy West Coast style of offense that Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan and even Sean McVay to an extent runs. So I think that's where Carson Wentz should go. Denver if they miss out, but as far as who the coach should get, it depends if they trade Wentz or not. If you can't trade Wentz and find a team to take on Wentz's salary, then good luck because you're not going to be able to get a Rodgers or Wilson with their big time salary that they have. But if you can get Wentz out of here, get someone to take on his contract, if I'm the coach, I would trade for Kirk Cousins, to be honest with you, because I don't think Aaron Rodgers, maybe you could try to throw, your draft capital out there, see what happens. It could be a spot because I think Green Bay would probably most likely trade him to an AFC team rather than an NFC team. But I don't know if the Colts are that high on his list. Russell Wilson may be an option. We'll see. But I think Kirk Cousins could also be a great option for the Indianapolis Colts.
He could, but I feel like that Carson Wentz shouldn't be traded. I want to see him in a second season with the Colts because he knows Frank Reich very well. I like the pairing with him and Frank Reich, Isaiah, because they worked together in Philadelphia under Doug Peterson. And I feel like that Frank Reich can really resurrect Carson Wentz's career in a way, like throwing ability. He's not going to run for his life. He's going to keep throwing, but he's going to be standing there like a statue, but he's not quite the same player that he once was before that after his torn ACL. I was thinking that he would have a full recovery on that. I felt like that Carson was rushed too soon, if you know what I mean, amongst those lines, but I don't think he gets traded, Isaiah. I disagree with him getting traded. Denver would be a good fit because Nathaniel Hackett would want to work with a veteran quarterback like that. He worked with Kyle Orton in Buffalo when he was the OC with the Bills under Hackett. But I really want Hackett to get his own quarterback, though, Isaiah, because I want him to get Matt Corral, the quarterback from Ole Miss, and that he can help him develop into a really good pocket passer quarterback. And Matt Corral could really fit into Hackett's West Coast system.
Sorry, I was having some audio issues. But yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know because I think Denver, they've tried so many times with rookie quarterbacks and trying to get their quarterback in the draft, and it just hasn't worked out. And I think that when you look at Denver, I think they want to try the veteran option now, going that route with maybe a Rodgers or going with like a Russell Wilson. That's why I think they hired Hackett, to be honest. Like, they're not going to admit this, obviously, but I think they hired him just to try to lure Aaron Rodgers because they know how much Aaron Rodgers loves Nathaniel Hackett.
If not, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to stay in Green Bay. I think Nathaniel Hackett should work with Teddy Bridgewater because honestly, I think Teddy Bridgewater could really fit Hackett's system.
Laurel, I got to disagree with you on the Teddy Bridgewater thing. I just think that Teddy Bridgewater's best days are honestly behind him. I mean, he suffered so many bad injuries already, and it sucks because he's such a young guy. But I mean, he doesn't have his speed anymore. When I watched him with the Broncos, he's really hesitant to run. He's hesitant to move out of the pocket. He just goes for the quick short throws. And Denver, I know a lot of Denver fans were frustrated with his play last year just because when you were let's say you were down 14 points and it was only the second quarter, you basically were waving the white flag because he just couldn't do anything without a solid run game and without the ability to check down. So if I'm Denver, if you can't land a Rodgers or Wilson, I would try to get maybe Cousins or even there's talk Baker Mayfield might be available. Jimmy G would be another one because he does have familiarity with that Shanahan-style offense. But I mean, I think Denver I don't think they'll go back to Bridgewater. Maybe Drew Lock, who knows? Because I think that Drew Lock he has more talent, obviously, than Teddy Bridgewater with his running abilities and his cannon of an arm. But he just needs to learn how to put touch on the ball and be able to thread that ball into tight windows.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's going to be a lot to talk about in the offseason, but with Doug Peterson now starting with the Jaguars, Isaiah, you know who I predict who should be his defensive coordinator? I think either Jim Schwartz or Greg Williams. Who do you think would be your first option for Doug Peterson if you were him, since he's going to put his staff together and all that for defensive coordinator?
Before I get into that, let me just say this. The Jacksonville Jaguars are one of the luckiest franchises in all of sports because they had one of the worst coaching search that I've ever seen, and they lucked into a grand slam hire in Doug Peterson. Lauro, I don't know if you know this, but you know how last year I picked the Jaguars to win the AFC South with Urban Meyer, and everybody walked up. Yeah, everybody walked off the set pretty much. But I am going to run it back with that pick. I am going to stay with the Jacksonville Jaguars as my AFC South pick for next year because look at that division. It's wide open. Tannehill, I don't believe in him. If you stuff Derrick Henry, Tannehill, he won't be able to hurt you down the field. He won't be able to beat you. I don't know who's going to be the quarterback in Tennessee. If you're running it back with Tannehill, I certainly don't trust the Titans. That defense took a step back last year. You look at the Indianapolis Colts. They're in some turmoil. Wentz, is he the quarterback moving forward? We'll see. Who knows? Plus, that defense, it was kind of a bit shaky, which was surprising because they had DeForest Buckner. And then you had the Texans, obviously, who I think will be one of the worst teams in the NFL. So when you look at the division, it's open, wide open. Doug Peterson, he has a history of being successful with rookie quarterbacks or young quarterbacks. They have $60 million in salary cap. They got a lot of draft picks. It's perfect. It could honestly be like a 2017 Rams situation where the Rams were dead last in the NFC West the year before. Jared Goff looked like a bust. They hired Sean McVay, and then all of a sudden, Jared Goff looked so good. The Rams spent all the money. They invested into winning now. They hit on their draft picks, and voila, the Rams won the division. So I think that this Jaguars situation is going to be exactly like the Rams situation from 2017. As far as the defensive coordinator, I would go with Vic Fangio because he's got a relationship with Trent Baalke. Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators out there. Jacksonville has already interviewed him for the DC. Let Doug Peterson take care of the offense. Vic Fangio takes care of the defense. Guarantee you, that's a winning recipe for the Jaguars.
It is, but the reason why I said Jim Schwartz is because he worked with him in Philly. Because I have a feeling that Doug Peterson's going to hire some of his Philadelphia Eagles people with him in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that he would, but I think he should go get Fangio because Schwartz is a good defensive coordinator, but Fangio's like top level elite defensive coordinator, and he's available right now. I'm surprised that nobody has picked him up still, and nobody's even interviewed him for a defensive coordinator job. It seems like for some reason that Fangio is getting blackballed out of the league. I don't know what's going on with him. You don't hear reports of him interviewing anywhere. It's ridiculous.
Isaiah, I found some other information. Fangio's not only a candidate for the Jags defensive coordinator job, he's also a candidate to be the Giants defensive coordinator with Brian Daboll. I think either spot for him would be good, but
yeah,
I on my list for defensive coordinator for the Jags, it's between Vic Fangio and Jim Schwartz and Greg Williams.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about Greg Williams. Last time we saw him as a defensive coordinator, he wasn't that good. I know it was with the Browns, but still. But you can't pass on Fangio. If you pass on Fangio, man, like, come on, man. Like, it would be absolutely stupid if you pass on Vic Fangio. You just cannot. This guy's one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, and he's up there. He's available. Go offer him the job.
You know who I predict should be offensive coordinator for the Jags? I pick Marty Morningwig, the former Eagles offensive coordinator. He was part of the Andy Reid tree. I could see Matt Nagy being on that staff too, joining Doug Peterson. Not as OC, but maybe quarterbacks coach, because he was the quarterbacks coach with the Chiefs. and I predict that I predict that Marty Morningwig would be a good offensive coordinator for the Jags.
That would be a solid hire, but I do agree with you, Loro. I think Matt Nagy will ultimately be on that staff because he has connections with Doug Peterson. Plus, he's a guy that I know he wasn't a good head coach, but he has a solid track record with developing quarterbacks. So I could definitely see that. So as a quarterbacks coach, I could see that for Matt Nagy. Offensive coordinator, I don't really know. I think that Doug Peterson, when I look at his track record, he's a guy that tends to he tends to hire people from either the Andy Reid tree or sometimes he brings in people from outside. So I could see a Press Taylor, who was his running backs coach in Philadelphia.
Press Taylor would be good. He's currently the quarterbacks coach. He could be quarterbacks coach. I'm reading an article right now that Matt Nagy could be his pick as offensive coordinator, and that wouldn't be bad.
Well, I don't know about Nagy, but I would definitely Press Taylor could be one.
Or I'm looking at this. David Culley as wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator, and assistant head coach for the Jags under Doug Peterson.
How about Rich Scangarello, the Niners guy, the Niners quarterbacks coach who worked with Doug Peterson in Philadelphia in Peterson's final year out there in Philly? So he could be one. I mean, he's a guy that has worked really well with young quarterbacks. You look what happened with Drew Lock when he was the offensive coordinator. Drew Lock had his best play of his career under Rich Scangarello in Denver.
Scangarello's not bad.
Yeah, and Nick Mullins flourished under Scangarello. Beathard was good stats-wise under Rich Scangarello. So, I mean, those are some of the options that I could name. But if I have to make a pick, I'd probably go with Scangarello just because you need a guy that can work with young quarterbacks. Not veteran quarterbacks, but young quarterbacks.
I'm with you on Vic Fangio being defensive coordinator, Isaiah. Scangarello's not a bad pick, but I want Marty Morningwig because Morningwig knew Peterson well in his final year in Philly, and I think having an experienced offensive coordinator will really help Trevor Lawrence out.
We'll see, but I mean, he will be the offensive coordinator, like Christy mentioned, is not going to be calling the plays because Peterson will be calling the plays and mostly designing the offense. So this is Doug Peterson's show, and he's going to be the main guy, like the main driving force when it comes to the offense.
And you think Doug Peterson will do a good job calling the plays for Trevor Lawrence?
I do. I think we're going to see a renewed Trevor Lawrence next season because Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer's offense were absolutely garbage. They should have never been hired by Urban Meyer. I don't know why Urban Meyer even went out and hired those guys. Those guys' offenses are dinosaur offenses. They're extinct. They don't work in today's NFL. You need a more modern offense, and Doug Peterson knows a modern offense. Having worked under Andy Reid, he knows those concepts, he knows those systems, and that's why he was successful there in Philadelphia with the RPOs and all of that stuff. So,
and he was also successful in Kansas City too.
Exactly. He was very successful in Kansas City as the offensive coordinator. So that's why I love this hire for Trevor Lawrence, and I can't wait to see Trevor Lawrence next season play. And you better believe, Loro, I'm going to draft him as my fantasy quarterback because I think he's going to have a really successful year.
Oh man, I mean, I've always been a big Trevor Lawrence fan. It was not a good year for him this past year, and I can't wait to see him break out this year. And he is the face of the franchise at quarterback for the Jags. They're going to get Travis Etienne back. You pair him with James Robinson in the backfield. Oh man, that's going to be a good backfield.
Oh yeah, man, that would be James Robinson, his power, Travis Etienne, and his finesse and his ability to escape people and catch the ball out of the backfield. It's a great 1-2 punch for the Jags.
It is a good 1-2 punch here for the Jags. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do here. But now we'll talk about this. Kellen Moore had his interview today with the Miami Dolphins as for their net head coaching vacancy. Yesterday, it was Mike McDaniel, and hopefully tomorrow we can break the news to you if one of these two will be hired as the Miami Dolphins head coach tomorrow. And you think if Mike McDaniel's the head coach of the Dolphins, you think he could work well with Tua, but you prefer Kellen Moore because Kellen Moore used to be a lefty quarterback at Boise State, and he could really help Tua Tagovailoa with his lefty touch.
Well, I don't prefer Kellen Moore just because he's a lefty. I prefer Kellen Moore because he's got a lot of experience being the offensive coordinator and being the leader of that Cowboys offense. And I think he's done that for like 2-3 years, while McDaniels has only done it for one season. So I think Moore would be a good hire for them. I really do. I think McDaniels, for me, I think he's too raw. Like, I think he's got great potential, but I think he's too raw. And I think that if he stayed for 1 or 2 more years as an offensive coordinator, it would really benefit him. But for Moore, I think he's ready now. He's been in that OC room with the Dallas Cowboys for 2 years already, or 2-3 years. He's a good play caller. I know, like, that play that they called with 14 seconds left in that Cowboys-Niners game was terrible. But I really do believe that if Kellen Moore is hired by the Dolphins, it would be a really, really solid hire by Stephen Ross and the Dolphins.
It will be, but I'm going to throw in this thing. If McDaniel gets hired for head coach of the Dolphins, your former tight ends coach, John Embry, could join Mike McDaniel in Miami as the offensive coordinator.
It could happen. I mean, John Embry has experience as a head coach after being a head coach in Colorado with the Colorado Buffaloes. And also, you talk about John Embry. He's a great coach when it comes to tight ends. You know, he found George Kittle, 5th-round pick, developed him into one of the best tight ends in the NFL. I love that potential combination, but I just think McDaniels is too raw. That's my concern about him, is he's only got 1 year of being a offensive coordinator. I think 1 more year or 2 more years would really benefit him.
Yeah, and then Brandon wants to know something here, and he says, "You two want to bet on the Jags winning the AFC South?" Brandon, Isaiah, and I have kind of been talking about how excited we are about this Jags team heading into next year, and I really think Doug Peterson's going to resurrect the Jacksonville Jaguars. I didn't predict the Jaguars winning the AFC South because I was in a wait-and-see mode with Urban Meyer, but Urban Meyer had a really bad season. Isaiah, what are your thoughts on that?
Let's talk as the next football season gets closer, because, I mean, right now I love the Peterson hire, but I also want to see what the Jaguars do in the draft and also when it comes to free agency. But back to the Urban Meyer thing, you know, I don't think Trevor Lawrence's stunted development was really Urban Meyer's fault. I just think that the coordinators he hired, which is absolute garbage, not Joe Cullen, but Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer, I'm going to keep saying this, they should never be offensive coordinators in the NFL ever again. Quarterbacks coach, fine. But, I mean, these guys run a super extinct offense with the Jaguars. It was super hard to watch. They didn't play to Trevor Lawrence's strengths, and I don't know what they were doing. I mean, every play, it seemed every time you watch Jaguars game when they were on offense, it seemed like 2 plays, run, and then the 3rd down, let's throw a short check down pass, and then we'll move on from there. Like, there was no creativity, there was no motion, there was none of that stuff from Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer. There's a reason why those 2 guys have been fired 2 times in the past 4 years, now 3 times in the past 5 years. There's a reason why. They're just not that good of an offensive mind. Their offenses were great back in the day, but we're no longer living in the year 2011.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But anyways, do you have a favorite? Who do you think is going to be the next head coach of the Houston Texans? Do you think that is going to be Brian Flores?
Oh, man. I don't actually. I think that lawsuit that he filed against the NFL will really affect things. But I actually got a surprise name for you, Loro, and Mess Around Dave. Welcome to the program. I'm going to go with the guy that is Jack Easterby, who's the president or executive vice president of football ops for the Houston Texans. I'm going to go with his guy, Josh McCown. I think they're going to hire Josh McCown because Jack Easterby, he wants to run things with Nick Caserio in the background. And these 2 guys have been kind of doing this or kind of pitching this dream since they were back with the Patriots. They now get to run the show. And McCown, the only reason why he's been interviewed twice with the Texans is because he and Jack Easterby share the same agent. So I don't think it's like a favor that they're doing. I think that they're really interested in him, and I think that they're gonna be the Houston Texans and push that kind of nonsense on everybody by hiring Josh McCown to be their head coach with no experience whatsoever.
How you doing, Mess Around Dave? And what is your thoughts on your Bears hiring Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus as your next head coach and GM?
I'm good. I like the hires. I really do. I think Eberflus is going to be great for us. His defense is going to translate for us. Our defense is already pretty good, but we're obviously going to switch from a 3-4 to a 4-3. So there's going to be a lot of change there. You see guys like Matt getting traded there, even Robert Quinn. But Flus is going to do well. I think he'll be great. I'm glad we got him instead of, like your pick, Leslie Frazier.
The reason why I wanted Leslie Frazier messing around is because he used to play for the Bears, and he would have brought that old school style defense to the Chicago Bears.
We already play great defense. We don't need Leslie stinking Frazier. I'm glad after his debacle against the Chiefs, letting them come back and tie it with 13 seconds left, there was no way he was getting a job anywhere.
You didn't think he would. You didn't think that he would have gotten that job. But what is your thoughts on Luke Getsy as your offensive coordinator?
Getsy, I think he'll bring a lot of the Shanahan style plays, which will be good for Justin Fields, utilizing his talent and speed. They'll do a lot of rollouts and move in the pocket and things like that Matt stinking Nagy didn't do. I'm glad he's gone. He's a terrible play caller. And if he goes with Doug Peterson to Jacksonville, hopefully Peterson's one calling plays because Nagy's just awful at it.
Yeah, Nagy's not a good play caller, though. So, anyways, Isaiah, so guys, we'll talk about the Saints. They're going to interview Eric Bieniemy, and I have really pushed. I am still pushing hard for Eric Bieniemy to get a head coaching job this offseason. And Isaiah, do you think that the Saints are going to pick Eric Bieniemy? I'd want the Saints to pick him. I mean, I want more minority hires. It has nothing to do with it in my scenario. The reason why I want Bieniemy is because I want him to. It's because I think he could do. He's a quarterback whisperer, and he could definitely put the Saints in the top 5 in rush offense.
I think Bieniemy would be a slam dunk hire by the Saints. But the only issue I have with that is that Bieniemy would literally be walking into a salary cap hell because the Saints are, I believe, negative 74 over the cap or 74 million over the cap for the next 2-3 years, and they have a lot of free agents. So, they're a team that, they need a young quarterback. I think Bieniemy will be able to work well with a young quarterback. They do have Kamara, Michael Thomas. Who knows what happens to him? The defense, I think they'll stay intact for another 1 or 2 more seasons. But I don't know. The future looks bleak for Bieniemy if he does go to the Saints, and it looks bleak for the Saints. But he can win right now. He just needs the perfect, a young rookie quarterback to come in because I don't really think Taysom Hill's that guy. Winston, we'll see, but I think you need to draft the quarterback this offseason, maybe, or this draft, maybe in the first round, and let him work with Bieniemy if he's indeed the guy.
What about you, Dave? What are your thoughts on who do you think the next head coach of the Saints is? Because that's going to be a time that we're going to be seeing a lot of head coaching hires within the next week.
I don't know. I think I'd like to see him promote one of the guys from within, like Dennis Allen or one of their coordinators from the team already, because I think a lot of people are scared of Bieniemy to hire Bieniemy as head coach because of Matt Nagy and how awful he did in Chicago. And Bieniemy doesn't really call. He calls some plays, but Reed mainly handles that. Reed admitted that he was one calling the plays against Cincinnati there at the end of the game. So, again, with Bieniemy, you're going to run into that problem. Teams, like I said, teams are scared because of Nagy. They don't want to run into that problem.
Yeah, they don't want to run into that problem. But what is your What do you want to see tomorrow from the Pro Bowl? I mean, do you have any plans on watching that? Do you have a pick who's going to win this game?
The Pro Bowl, when I was a kid, it used to mean something. It was special. It was fun to watch. Now it's like flag football. You can't blitz. You can't really hit the quarterback. It's the skills challenge is more exciting than the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, Mac Jones played very well. Had a good performance in that.
I didn't get to watch any of it because I worked all week, so I didn't really get to see any of it. But yeah, the skills challenge is definitely more exciting than the Pro Bowl.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. But what's your thoughts on the Vikings hiring Kevin O'Connell?
And they can't really hire him until after the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on that? The Vikings are going to hire him after the Rams season's complete.
We'll see how it works out because I believe that McVay is the one that calls the plays, right, for the Rams. So, and he was a quarterbacks coach or something for the Rams, so it could work out for them. I don't know. I just thought that they really blew it with Jim Harbaugh. They had him wrapped up, and then it just went south after that. Kind of glad they didn't get Harbaugh though, because I didn't want to play them with Harbaugh twice a year. Harbaugh was my guy. I wanted Harbaugh to go to Chicago, but apparently he wanted like a John Gruden type deal, 10 years, $100 million. And both the Vikings and Bears told him, no, we're not doing that.
Oh, yeah, they're not doing that. That's for sure here. But anyways, we'll talk about the NBA trade deadline here. I mean, you're a Bulls fan, so do you think your Bulls could be buyers or sellers?
They're definitely not going to be sellers because they're like second in the East right now. So I think they could really do well to improve on the front court. I know they've been talking about trading for Jeremy Grant from the Pistons. They've also been talking about getting Millsap from the Nets once he gets bought out. So they definitely need some front court help.
And what about this? I'm going to throw out a prediction here. Ben Simmons gets traded to Brooklyn for Kyrie Irving. I think that could happen. But that rumored trade that I saw that I talked about on Friday, it was too much. I mean, I didn't want the Sixers to give up Tyrese Maxey in a lot of their pieces for James Harden.
I can see Harden being traded to Philly before Irving just because Harden wants out.
And why do you think Harden wants out?
Probably because he's not getting the love he was just being the main guy. It's all Durant. There's too much to share. He wants to go somewhere where he can be the focal point.
Yeah, I think that's something that needs to happen here. But talk about what's your thoughts overall on the Lakers win over the New York Knicks?
I have no thoughts on the Lakers. I hate the Lakers. I can't stand the Lakers. I can't stand LeBron. I hope they lose the first round of the playoffs if they make it at all.
Yeah, they might, but we'll see. But anyways, the Yankees they could take a run at signing Freddie Freeman once the MLB lockout ends. And my thoughts is that I don't think they should because I feel like the Braves will keep Freddie Freeman.
I think they'd be better off keeping what's his name from the Cubs they got last year? Rizzo. Yeah, I think they'd be better off keeping Rizzo than going after Freeman. I don't think Freeman's going to leave Atlanta.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to leave Atlanta too. But anyways, what are your other thoughts on the head coaching hires? Like you talked about, what's your thought? You talked about Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, and Ryan Poles used to be a player for the Bears. What do you think he brings to the front office?
Well, he started out, he was an offensive lineman, undrafted, and he didn't make the team. So I think that he's going to really do well to help build up our offensive line, which we desperately need because our line is trash. And he knows how to evaluate the offensive line. He's helped Kansas City revamp their line from the Super Bowl against the Bucs to what it was this year. He helped bring in guys like Brown and the lineman from the –
You mean Joe Toney?
Yeah, that guy, yeah. So he helped bring in some key free agents on that line. I think he's going to do the same for the Bears. And his during his press conference, he said that he wanted to build through the draft, spend wisely in free agency, and and they were going to take back the North and weren't giving it back. And we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Poles is going to do a really good job with the Bears. I mean, the Bears defense is going to be good with Matt Eberflus. You just hired Alan Williams as your defensive coordinator.
Yeah, and it's weird because during the well, it's not really weird, but the press conference, Eberflus said that he wasn't going to be calling defensive plays, so he's going to oversee the whole team. He's not going to be calling defensive plays.
Why? He should be calling defensive plays. He called it when he was in Indianapolis, though.
True, but he wants to manage the whole team, I guess. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to leave it up to the coordinator to call the plays.
Yeah, I think he wants to oversee the operations. He's a defensive-minded head coach, though. He's going to be focusing on the defense a lot.
Yeah, I notice every time we have a defensive coach, we do well. So when we hire an offensive guy, we don't do so well, like Tressman. The only defensive coordinator we hired did do well. Dick Duran, he had a couple good years. John Fox, he was terrible as a defensive coordinator. But, yeah, so every time we've had one of those, we've done pretty well. Lovie Smith, I thought we should never got rid of him. We fired him after a 10-6 season.
Oh, that was dumb.
Yeah.
And what is your and who do you think is likely the Dolphins head coach? Do you pick Mike McDaniel or Kellen Moore?
I would go with oh gosh. Mike McDaniel's from the Niners, right?
Yeah, he's done a good job with them, and the Dolphins are very high on him.
I would go with McDaniel only because he could bring out West Coast system over there, and they can run. And two is a running quarterback. They can install some running plays with him, some wildcat, maybe some RPOs, and that offense works pretty good in Frisco. So, and they got some of the pieces to do it in Miami. I would go with McDaniel.
Yeah, Mike McDaniel would be good. I think he would really work well with Tua Tagovailoa. And then the Buffalo Bills, however, they promoted Ken Dorsey to offensive coordinator, and they hired Joe Brady to be their quarterbacks coach. I love that hire by Sean McDermott and the Bills.
Yeah, Josh Allen's advocated for Dorsey. He came out and said he wanted Dorsey to be his OC if DeBall left or whatever his name is. If he left, and he did. So, and DeBall wanted to take Dorsey with him, but Buffalo was like, nope, we're keeping him.
Yeah, the Bills made the right choice to keep Ken Dorsey in that sense, because I think Ken Dorsey will really work well with Josh Allen, Joe Brady too. Sean McDermott, I don't think he calls defensive plays. He's a good defensive-minded coach, but I think he just oversees the coaching staff.
He does, yeah. Frazier's one that calls defensive plays there, but yeah, he's a great coach. And it's the work that they've done with, like DeBall did with Josh Allen, is the reason he got a head coaching gig.
And do you think that Joe Brady would really help Josh Allen get better?
I mean, how much better can he get? The guy's already a stud.
Yeah, Josh Allen is really, 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 really good here. And do you also think that the Jets? Do you think they're a team that could show improvement next year too?
They could. They played some really good ball at the end of the season. So, and Zach Wilson showed a lot of improvement over the last few games. So, if they get some more weapons on offense and reinforce that offensive line, they could be players in the AFC East.
They really could. I mean, the reason why I say they could be good is because I think that the Jets really need to be more active this offseason. But do you think your Bears, however, what are your early offseason predictions from them? Do you think you're going to keep Allen Robinson?
It depends if he sits down and has a conversation with Eberflus and Getsy and Ryan Poles and they work it out. Maybe, but I think he's got one foot out the door already.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears, I think they need to draft one of Justin Fields' college teammates, like a Chris Olave or something like that, or Garrett Wilson.
I think if they get a Olave, they'd have to trade up into the first round to get him, and we don't have the capital to do that unless you trade Mac for like a first-round pick. But other than that, I think Olave's going to go in the late first round, and we don't have a pick until the second.
Yeah, you need to have weapons for Justin Fields, though.
Yeah, there's also rumors, speculation out there that we might try and trade for Calvin Ridley. But the Patriots are also one of the teams that might trade for him too. So
I think Calvin Ridley should be a Dolphin. He played with Tua Tagovailoa, and I think that you have I think you got to trade Allen Hurns somehow, and then you make Devontae Parker your number 2 receiver or something like that. I don't think Allen Hurns has a role in that offense.
who's the guy they got from Alabama last year? Was it Smith? No, Smith
It was Waddle.
Waddle, that's right, Waddle. Yeah.
And Jalen Waddle was so good last year, though.
Yeah, he had some dynamic plays for them last year. I think he could be there. He's a great slot guy. I wouldn't say he's number 1 or 2, but he could be great in the slot.
Yeah, he could be. What was your thoughts on the Senior Bowl so far?
The Senior Bowl, I didn't really watch it because, like I said, I work night shift, so I didn't really get to see a whole lot of anything unless it happens to fall on my day off. But yeah, I don't catch a lot of that at work.
Oh, I was just wondering. I mean, talk about Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett. Those are pretty much your top 3 quarterbacks in this draft class.
I did hear that Riddler was having a really good combine, or not combine, but good moments at the Senior Bowl or whatever, and that he showed out. But I think he's more of like a day 3 pick.
Who do you think's more of a day 3 pick?
Riddler, the Cincinnati quarterback.
Yeah, Ritter, I think he should be a first-round pick, though. I mean, I think that he had a really – I think whoever he goes, he should be a member of the Washington football team.
That's not a bad pick for them. I mean, they do need a quarterback in the future.
So. Yeah, they definitely do need a quarterback in the future. And the reason why I say that, Dave, is because I think that they are a quarterback way. And, Ron Rivera needs a quarterback as well. But I also don't think Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson will be on the move. I think they're going to be staying put.
There was a rumor out there that the Bears could trade Justin Fields to Seattle for Wilson. I do not want to see that happen.
That's not going to happen. I don't think I think that Justin Fields is your guy going forward.
I sure hope so. I hope it's just speculation because that would be dumb on the Bears' part.
Yeah, anyways, folks, it's been a really good show here. And Mess Around Dave and myself are going to be on air for Morning Tailgate tomorrow. And it's time for final thoughts. Well, I mean, Isaiah left. I mean, I'll see him tomorrow on the Extra Point. Dave, what are your final thoughts? And we got Morning Tailgate tomorrow. I'm looking forward to a trivia show tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that should be fun. I can't wait to hop on and test my knowledge against our other co-hosts of Morning Tailgate. So should be interesting. And thanks for having me on. I know I hopped on late, but always appreciate being on MI6 with you guys.
Oh, yeah. And then I can't wait for tomorrow's Morning Tailgate. And I know that next Sunday we are going to be making our Super Bowl picks with them.
That's right.
And then the following Sunday we're going to still be on, but we're going to just have a wrap-up show.
Sounds good. I can't wait to do it.
So anyways, my final thoughts is that good Laker win and all that. And then one of my other final thoughts is if Adam Gase becomes the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, I think Bill Belichick respects him, and I think that Adam Gase wasn't a good head coach. I think he's a better offensive coordinator than a head coach. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree, because when he was OC for us, he was good. I mean, our offense was dynamic. We put up points. He definitely knows how to call plays, but as a head coach, crazy eyes Adam Gase, terrible head coach.
And what would he bring to the Patriots? Do you think he would really help Mac Jones out as a coordinator?
I think so. I mean, he brings a spread offense, kind of he likes to spread things out, and he doesn't really run the ball a whole lot, but his passing concept, he knows how to get receivers open and stuff. So I think he'll elevate Max Jones to the next level.
Oh, yeah, he would. But I also think the Patriots will still be running the football a lot. I think that Damian Harris is still going to have a good year. and all that, I think the Patriots are still a run-first team, but I think Adam Gase is going to use this no-huddle, spread-type offense with the Patriots, assuming he gets hired. I would like Bill O'Brien, but if it's Gase, then I think it would be good for Mac Jones in a sense, like what you said. Adam Gase's playbook is based on spread offense, throwing the deep ball. That could benefit Mac Jones with Adam Gase. And you said he was good when he was with the Bears as your OC.
He was pretty good with us. We put up points. I mean, that was back when we had Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall, Martellus Bennett, Matt Forte, Jay Cutler. We put up points then, but our defense was atrocious.
Yeah, with Fox, I'll tell you that. I mean, John Fox is a good coach, but he's an okay head coach here. But I meant to ask you that if Adam Gase is the head coach of if he's the offensive coordinator of the New England Patriots, he brings in Donald Loggins as his quarterbacks coach. That would work.
Yeah, that was the same setup they had. Chicago Loggins was the quarterback coach then too, so I could see it.
Yeah, but anyways, we'll talk more about that on Morning Tailgate tomorrow. Dave, or Mess Around Dave, Isaiah, Loro signing off for now. We'll see you all tomorrow, and Dave and I will be with you tomorrow for the Morning Tailgate with our friends Chris Mayberry, Big B, and Sarge sometimes makes a special appearance. And hopefully we get to see Sarge tomorrow.
I think he's planning on coming on. I'm not sure. We'll see.
All right. We'll talk to you then.
All right.